Right. Hi everyone. So today is day 14. Even though I'm recording the second video of the day, also counted as a different video for tomorrow. Um, I decided to maybe do kind of like a mini series on things that I've read about Silicon Valley, because again, the companies that essentially were built there are controlling or like influencing on how we live life and essentially everything that revolves around communication, how we perceive our reality, and how they shape reality. So, I thought, why not go with kind of like a classics that you might want to read if you're interested in Silicon Valley, which is Peter Thiel's book, Zero to One, in which he explains how great startups are found, which are founded, which are then converted into these multi-billion-dollar businesses. And the thing is, I agree with his thesis, which is mainly the following. The next Zuckerberg, for instance, will not build a Facebook app in any way. The next Bill Gates will not build Microsoft. The next Steve Jobs will not be building Apple. So you kind of get the idea that the next big thing is something that hasn't been done before in a way that it currently uses existing technologies to create something that is pushing the boundaries of what we know. So this is why he calls it zero to one and not one to n or n to one or adding something to one because one is an existing state. So it's kind of think about maybe add-ons that you want to an existing software. So let's take, you know what, let's take Cluely. If you know Cluely, it's an AI startup that promises you to cheat on everything. Um, it's just an AI agent that is on your desktop, which can be used for technical interviews where it can help you out and analyze what you've just said and help you come up with questions, come up with answers, come up with anything that helps you in these interviews and calls in general. So, is this technology, for instance, really a breakthrough technology? It's not, and it doesn't have a monopoly on the technology because that is an AI note taker in a call. And there was a lot of hype around the company. There still is, but ultimately, it's something you can get for free when you turn on Zoom and click on kind of like either the subtitle thing, so you understand what is being said. And there is also now, I think, Gemini implemented into Zoom. So obviously, you're getting kicked out of the game by established companies who can build these technologies way faster than you can. So this is something, or clearly is essentially case example of you just building on top of existing technology. Now use Google, for instance. Google is really something that went from zero to one. Zero was the state where you did not have Google, and there's a huge difference between not having Google and having Google. Before you had Google, um, you had nothing to organize the data on the internet. You were not even able to search for things. You did not have an interface where you were able, apologies, to kind of type in what you want. After Google, you were able to search mainly in the first years for textual data. So books, which were maybe uploaded by then. Um, I'm not quite sure whether you could find data sets at the time. I don't think so. Um, but essentially everything that you can read. And Google made it possible to categorize these findings and make them accessible. So, as you can see, huge difference. Same goes with Tesla. So you had EVs before, but Musk made them important. The Japanese had EVs, the Germans have EVs, but neither of them was able to convert a certain attraction to these technologies until Musk with Tesla. So this is also kind of like a 0 to 1 thing. And what also allows you from going 0 to 1 is you're essentially the first. So you can patent your technology. And as far as I think, you have anywhere from 15 to 25 years. Okay, no, I think 25 years is a bit too much. I think you have 15 years, in which, no one can really copy your technology. These 15 years give you enough time and advantage to build a monopoly. So Google is a monopoly for search engines. Tesla is essentially one for electrical vehicles. Not anymore, considering the rise of Chinese ones, but the last years they were. Microsoft was essentially the key player for hardware design in terms of PCs. Now they're not, but they were. Um, like you can think of monopolies, right? Meta for social media entertainment. Like there is no one who has a bigger share in social media than Meta. And so this is also one of his theses. So Peter Thiel, he does say this is, by the way, in the YC Combinator video classes. So I think there are 10 where they explain how to make good startups. I think he introduces in the first two where he kind of teaches that to have a great startup, you need to be able to be a monopoly in your market. If you can't be doing that, then you're competing with losers, and competition is for losers. I think that's what the video is titled. So if you type in competition is for losers, you'll find Peter Thiel explaining what he means by that. So this is the second point. One, you need breakthrough technology. Two, you need a monopoly. Three, now that you have a monopoly, you need to frame it right. Because in all markets, we don't want to see monopolies because we perceive monopolies as very stiffening. They set prices. They don't really care about innovation anymore. They, maybe they buy innovation or like very innovative startups, but they don't do anything with them. And so no market really wants to have a monopoly because they're also able to create an artificial supply and demand, which creates weird market interactions. So a lot of markets, right? We say for the free market, normally we'd like to have multiple, how do I say this? Multiple options for essentially the same service. Now, if you're on Google, right, and we all are well aware of that you are a monopoly company, essentially, you now need to think, well, sure I am, but how as Google can I tell the world that essentially I'm not? You could do the following things. Every company has different aspects of the service. So if you look at Google, for instance, you could say, hey, I'm not the biggest shareholder in market value, for instance, for advertisement. I'm not. Other people are doing that. I'm not the biggest market shareholder in Gen AI, for instance. You could argue that, well, OpenAI is still the bigger fish, which I don't think is true anymore, but you see the picture. So now you did the following. You have a breakthrough technology, you patented, you became a monopoly, you convinced people you were not, but you still are, and there are no charges, or like there's no one really thinking critically about your position in the market. Because again, you're innovating so fast to keep up the advantage of being a monopoly because you need to innovate, otherwise someone will come up and steal your place. So you are advancing rapidly. You are the monopoly. No one stops you. What do you do next? This is kind of like a question. I really don't see answer in the book. What do you do next? Do you start something new? Like Palantir, for instance. Do you sell your company? Do you maybe run an experiment? Start two companies at the same time? see if you can follow Peter Thiel's advice that both companies, or like at least one of them, will have a successful IPO. So again, this is kind of like the question that is interesting to me because I don't remember the book or like Peter Thiel really explicitly talking about it. He might have, and I don't remember. That's also very much possible. But I don't have an answer to that. And with that, I think we can conclude today's video because I rambled enough and you have a very rough idea about the book and you know where to watch the video where Peter Thiel explains what he means. And I think that's it. That was my goal for today. So yeah, see you tomorrow for day 15 out of 30. And then yeah, I'll see what we'll talk about.